Live, brought to you by the Physicians Committee. Hi, I am the weight loss champion, Chuck Carroll, and this is the healthiest half hour anywhere online today. Appreciate you joining us right here on Facebook and on YouTube. So let us set the table. Back to school this year means something a little bit different for everyone, but one thing that is consistent is that kids will be working up an appetite as they crack the books. So with some healthy ideas for lunches and even tastier snacks, we're going into the kitchen of dietitian Karen Smith, who has a hungry helper joining her today. Karen and hungry helper, I cannot wait to get some yummy recipe ideas from you guys.
Hi.
And Hello, and Dr. Neal Barnard is here with us as well as we take a close look at a new study finding every single pound counts in the fight against the coronavirus as the obesity epidemic and coronavirus pandemic collide. Dr. Barnard, some important and actually really staggering information you're going to share with us today.
It certainly is. I look forward to sharing it.
And we'll be opening up the doctor's mailbag, so get your questions ready. If you have something that you would like to ask Dr. Barnard, go ahead and drop that in the comments section, or you can tweet them to us using the hashtag ExamRoomLive. But first, let's get caught up on the latest happenings. Here are your health headlines for Wednesday, September 2nd, 2020. The U.S. is now the first country to record 6 million coronavirus cases, passing the milestone this week as Iowa becomes the new hotspot for infections. The number of new cases there each day nearly doubling over the last week, spurred by outbreaks on college campuses. Positive rates for coronavirus tests also above 10% in the Hawkeye State. Meanwhile, health officials say new infections in more than a dozen other states have been traced back to last month's large-scale motorcycle rally in Sturgis, South Dakota. But some potentially good news now out of Iceland, where a new study finds immunity to the coronavirus can last longer than previously thought. Scientists studying more than 30,000 COVID-19 patients say the level of antibodies found in their blood increased significantly during the first 2 months of recovery and remained stable for at least 2 months after that. The study also shows women, non-smokers, older patients, and those who had severe infections tended to produce the highest amounts of antibodies. The discovery is viewed as encouraging as work to develop a vaccine continues. And finally, a new survey, get this, a new survey finds more than half of Americans have been shying away from meat and dairy during the pandemic, with 60% now considering themselves to be flexitarian or semi-vegetarian. The most popular reasons given for the dietary shift: a healthier diet overall and sustainable lifestyle. The poll, conducted on behalf of plant-based egg alternative company Just Egg, finds more people are eating vegan for breakfast than any other meal. And it should be noted that September is Better Breakfast Month. And that growing contingent of healthy eaters are wise to be adopting an increasingly plant-based diet, which has been shown to combat obesity, because during the current coronavirus pandemic, the battle of the bulge has turned into a life and death struggle for millions who have become infected. And a new study shows that every single pound seems to count, with researchers concluding that the higher a person's body mass index, the greater their odds of requiring intensive care. And for those severely overweight, it's a near certainty even that they will require a ventilator. With more on these new findings, we welcome Dr. Barnard to the Exam Room Live. Dr. Barnard, this is really important information. We've been talking about it, and this really just cements the fact that this is really the time that we should be taking to get healthy.
Yeah, that's right. If people have unwanted weight, it's not just a cosmetic issue. It's a health issue over the long term. But if you get COVID-19, it's a health issue immediately. Let me show you some findings. We're going to go to France. Right up there in the very top of the country is Lille, Lille, right next to the Belgian border. And when you remember the coronavirus originated in China, and when it went over to Europe, France was one of the really hard-hit countries very early in the pandemic. And so we've got some pretty good data as to what happened, and I want to share them with you. This is from Lille University. And what you're seeing here is people who did not have COVID-19. This is just the general hospital population. So sick people, but with whatever kinds of things brought them to the hospital. And the big box at the bottom is people with a normal BMI, body mass index. Now, body mass index, in case you're a little unclear about it, it's your body weight, but it's adjusted for how tall you are. And a healthy BMI, we're going to say, is anything below 25. And if you don't know what your BMI is, go online and just type in BMI calculator. And it will ask you to put in your weight, put in your height, and it will tell you your BMI. And if you're below 25, you're good. Okay. The bottom of the healthy range is 18 and a half. So 18 and a half to 25. All right. So these are hospital patients in Lille who did not have COVID-19. And as you can see, about 50% of them were all in the healthy weight range. But going above that is that sort of medium gray. These are people a little bit overweight, between 25 and 30. And that's what, about, say, 25% of the people. And then above that, you see another 12, 13% of the people who have a BMI above 30. And then the darkest color, the black color there, that's BMI above 35. Those are severely obese people. Okay, so these are the people who did not have COVID-19. These are the people who did. And look what you don't see. You don't see a lot of healthy weight folks. Less than maybe 12% of the COVID-19 hospital patients have a healthy BMI. But the people who are overweight, obese, severely obese, they are the ones who are being hospitalized for COVID-19. But it gets worse. Let's look at the people who have COVID-19, and do they have a severe course or not? And over on the left, you see 47.1% of people with a healthy BMI end up being sick enough to need a ventilator. But let's say you were in the most obese category, it's 85.7% of those people needed a ventilator. In other words, if you were in that severe BMI category, 35 or and above, it's almost a certainty that you're going to be really sick, you're going to be on a ventilator, and the doctors are not making bets at that point. But here's the point of this, is look at the people in between those two extremes. That 60.4% figure, those are people who would just be considered mildly overweight. And the 75% is people who would be just at the beginning of obesity. So where do Americans find themselves? Most Americans are in those middle two categories. And if you can get down to the lower category, you're dramatically better. Okay, so this was the conclusion of the researchers there in Lille, France. Almost all intensive care COVID-19 patients with severe obesity will end up on a ventilator. And what they mean is they may have trouble getting you off a ventilator. And I can't tell you, Chuck, we see so many of our docs who are on the front lines dealing with COVID-19 in hospitals in New York and in Philadelphia and all around, are always telling us that when they have a patient who is overweight, regardless of age, those are the people who do not do well. Those are the people who go on the ventilator. They may not get off of it. Okay, just a little more detail about what's going on here. Body fat cells are not just a bag of calories. Fat cells are living, metabolizing parts of your body, and they express the ACE2 receptor. The fat cells, they have this receptor on the surface of the cell. That's the welcome mat for the virus. So the virus comes in, says, thank you very much, let me come in, so they can go inside the fat cells. The more fat cells you've got, the more welcome mats you've got for COVID-19. Then in the lung tissue, remember it's a respiratory virus. In the lung tissue, there are what are called lipofibroblasts. These are fat cells in the lung. Funny thing to think of, but you've got them there. And they can then transform into myofibroblasts, and they cause a condition called lung fibrosis, in which the elasticity of the lungs is replaced by just tough tissue. And that's where people get into real trouble with breathing. So here's what you see. These are fat cells, adipose tissue. Those little Y-shaped things on the surface, that's the welcome mat that says, virus, come on inside. So you don't want to have a lot of fat cells. You want to get rid of them to the extent you can. Okay, so now that everybody is concerned and they're thinking, let me get rid of that excess weight once and for all, what are the steps? Not rocket science. Step one, if you haven't gotten there, get the animals off your plate. If you have no chickens, pigs, cows, dairy products, eggs on your plate, then you have zero animal fat in your diet. Number two, oh, and by the way, this is from the Adventist Health Study too. The body mass index in non-vegetarians, highest of the group. The vegans, far and away, the healthiest weights of any group. That's the blue group at the back and the right-hand side. Okay, number two, minimize oils and oily foods. This is where guacamole is not going to be your friend. I'm talking about nuts, peanut butters, and cooking oils. Why? They're healthier than animal fat for cholesterol, but they pack calories all the same. So keeping oils is an important, oils very low is an important thing. And if you're on a vegan diet and you're stuck, look for that oily contraband in your diet, whether it's nuts or avocados, that kind of stuff. And then eat foods that are as natural as possible, because natural foods, as opposed to processed stuff, that retains the fiber. It fills you up and makes you push away from the table. Okay, if you need extra help, two quick things. Exercise does help. It's not huge. Some people go there first. Exercise will help control weight, and also it's hard to eat ice cream while you are jogging, but it's not, apart from that, a huge weight burner. Another thing, though, do see your doctor. Your doctor can do a number of tests to see if there's a physiological reason why weight's having trouble coming off, and I've put down here one of the key ones, and that's your thyroid. Your thyroid gland helps you make energy, helps you burn fuels, and your TSH, or thyroid stimulating hormone, level needs to be below 4 for a healthy thyroid, and most clinicians would want it even further south of that, around 3 or 2.5 or something like that. But your doctor can do that test. It's cheap. It's really, really easy to do. So there you have it. You don't want to carry that extra weight. Back to you, Chuck.
So let me ask you this. As you were going over those numbers, I pulled up the BMI calculator, and it turns out the old me had a BMI of nearly double the severely overweight category. So I was almost at 70, 69.8. In your opinion, when somebody is in that extreme of a category, how grim is that prognosis? I don't mean to stump you,
Chuck. No, I'm trying to find a polite word for death sentence, Chuck. It is a terrible, terrible situation when a person gets COVID and they are carrying that much fat, that much body fat. It is a really, really rough situation in the hospital, and survival is very much in doubt. Now, this does not mean that people who are in that situation should be blamed or shamed or anything like that. That's not what I'm saying. What I am saying is this: we need to take it seriously, and we need to find ways to get rid of it. For some people, that means bariatric surgery if they're in a pretty rough situation. For most people, the diet changes are going to get them where they need to go, provided we do it the right way. There are so many distractions and so many other ways to lose weight that you hear about, but the steps that we've laid out now are the ones that are going to work the best and will be the healthiest.
Absolutely. And the thing that I do like about this study is that it does show that every single pound counts. As we said here, leading up to your information here today, is that, the more weight you can take off, the better shape you're going to wind up being in. And that, to me, is the important takeaway.
Oh, yeah. So many people, they know they're just a little overweight. I'm a little heavier than I was when I was in school, or, when I was in the police academy, I was in good shape, but now I'm putting on a few pounds. They check their BMI, at 27, 28. They look like everybody else in America, but they are at much higher risk than they would be if their BMI were 22, 23, something like that.
All right. Now, here's the good news, though, is that for those who are at the highest risk for COVID-19, may have limited means, we are offering a free 8-week Fight COVID-19 with Food course, and that is running now through October 13th. And that really will, as we're talking, so many people are like, I just don't know how to get started. And this 8-week course, that is exactly what this is designed to help with, right?
That's exactly it. There are people who are at risk because of obesity, because of diabetes, hypertension, and we're going to see what we can do to help them.
All right. PCRM.org/nutrition class is the place to go for more information on that. I know for a fact that the first 8-week course, the participants just had an enormous amount of success. I think 2/3 were able to lose weight when they wanted to. More than half reported improvements with diabetes and blood pressure coming down as well. Just phenomenal figures.
It is, and the thing I like the best is that people get so pumped up that they share this information with other people. So not only do you get healthier yourself, but you become a lifesaver for others.
Perfect. All right, Dr. Barnard, stick around because we are going to be opening up the doctor's mailbag in just a little bit. So go ahead and send your question in, post that in the comment section now, or you can tweet that to @ChuckCarroll WLC or @PCRM. Just make sure that you use the hashtag ExamRoomLive. What do you say we pivot now to something not a little more positive, but a lot more positive? Because it is the end of summer, and that means back to school time for millions of kids across the country. And while some will be in the classroom and others will be learning from home, the one thing that everyone has in common is that schoolwork can work up one heck of an appetite. So, here now with some healthy lunch and snack ideas that all kids can rally around is dietitian Karen Smith, who is joined by a young sous chef with an impeccable palate. Karen, welcome to the Exam Room Live.
Hey, Chuck. Thanks for having me.
Now, who is the sous chef with the impeccable palate?
This is my daughter, Carly. She is 12 and going into the 7th grade.
All right. Well, Carly, thank you so very much for coming on the show today. You're going to be doing some really important work. Karen, let me start with you about these lunches. You know, all the parents, the majority of them are working and it's stressful. Even if the kid is learning from home, time is of the essence. So the things that we're going to be talking about today, how much time are we talking about investing in the kitchen?
Oh, very little. We're talking, 15 minutes or less.
Love to hear that. I love to hear that. And I'm sure that all of the parents watching this are just like, yeah, as well. So let's talk about some of the healthy lunch ideas that you guys have whipped up for us today before we move on to the snacks, which man, those are just going to be mind blowing. So, what are some ideas that parents should be looking into to get their kids going on this school year on a healthy foot?
Yeah, sure. So one thing that I think has really helped me, like when I adopted a plant-based diet over 6 years ago, was kind of not paying attention to the story of the food industry, that particular foods are foods that you eat at breakfast and other foods are foods that you eat, for lunch and for snacks. And just wrapping my brain around this idea that whole plant-based foods can be eaten any time of day. And so you can have oatmeal for lunch, for example. Like oatmeal and a banana for lunch is a wonderful option. And often, like Carly and her sister might have tofu and vegetables for breakfast. So I think breaking down the marketing and the messaging that the food industry gives to people is really important because it opens so many doors. Like really just focusing on the types and the qualities of the foods that you're eating, like the more whole plant-based foods that you can incorporate into your child's diet is to their benefit, especially like after we just heard what Dr. Barnard said about weight and obesity and how much obesity impacts our health, and seeing overweight and obesity, just the rates climbing in children, especially paying attention to, I think fruit and vegetable consumption in children can be super beneficial. And in my opinion, they're like nature's convenience foods. They're bananas, oranges, mango, like there's very little or no work required. You just pick them up, maybe peel them, and you're ready to go.
Oh, that's the ultimate grab and go snack. And that's one of the most popular questions that we get is like, I'm out of snack ideas. I've gone plant-based. I want to eat healthy, but I don't even know where to go to turn to for a snack. And it can be just as simple as you said, grabbing an apple, grabbing a banana, something like that. But let's talk about some of these lunch recipes that you have brought to the table for us today. What do you have prepared?
Yeah, sure. So one of my kids' favorites is a chickpea salad. So you can see it here in the middle. And it's basically just mashed chickpeas. I like to put them in the blender and just pulse them a little bit. And then I chop up celery, onion, a little garlic, red bell pepper, add a little bit of mustard and maybe a little tahini lemon juice. And I mean, you can certainly alter that recipe as well. Like if you don't like some of those vegetables, or maybe you look in your fridge and you have a yellow bell pepper, like you can certainly swap out those veggies for what you have and what you like. And you can serve it, like I love it on a bed of greens, and so does my older daughter, with some other vegetables. You could serve it on some whole grain bread or pita bread. Carly likes to eat it with like a whole grain cracker. And then pair that with some fruit and you're good to go. And it really takes only, 15 minutes to do all of that. And it also serves as a wonderful snack. So again, like my view on food is like, if I take the time to make this recipe, I'm going to do a double batch and the leftovers are going to be in the fridge. So when my kids are hungry, they can go in and say, oh, great, there's chickpea salad. It doesn't have to be just for lunch. They'll eat it as a snack as well. We also have, So this might be a breakfast idea or a lunch idea, but on the toast, you can't really see as much now. There's a spread made with white beans. So beans, in my opinion, are like one of the most overlooked foods, consumed by Americans. They're so, so healthy and packed full of vitamins and minerals that kids need to, be healthy, to grow, things like calcium and magnesium. And so it's just a really simple spread. You take a can of white beans, drain them, rinse them, plop them in your blender. I like to add 2 dates. You can add a little maple syrup, some vanilla extract, and cinnamon, and just blend it. And then that can be a spread that's super healthy, packed full of lots of fiber. And then on top of the toast, you can have your children, you can chop up some fruit, or if they're older, like my kids are, like they can just go in the fridge and pick the fruit that they want and put it on top of the toast. Or they can also just use the spread as a fruit dip for a snack.
Chloe, when you're looking at these and then you think back to when you're sitting in the school cafeteria and you're seeing the school lunches that your friends are eating, I mean, which of the two is more appealing?
My mom's lunches, because they're just good. They're better. They just taste better.
Oh, I have no doubt. Do your friends ever ask you, like, if you want to trade?
No.
Do they ask at least, like, what is it that you're eating? Because I'm looking at that, like the chickpea salad, it just looks like an explosion of color, and the toast with the white bean spread, another explosion of color. And then I think back to the way that lunch looked when I was a kid, and Karen, it's probably the same for you, is like these little square pieces of pizza that have the plastic cheese, and you're serving that with like 3-day-old French fries. It just did not look very good. And then I would imagine, Chloe, you're walking into the cafeteria carrying something like this. It's like, you got to be the hit of the school.
I don't know.
Of course you are. Everyone wants to eat your lunch. I mean, Chuck, I think it's unfortunate, like in our home, like to your point, so many kids aren't even used to eating these types of foods. And so they might look at Carly's lunch and think like, what is it that you're eating? And so when we have, friends over to our house, like I love preparing foods like this and giving kids the opportunity to try some things beyond what they're used to. Now I work mostly with adults as a dietitian, and, I can say that the habits and the attitudes that adults have towards food are ones that they developed as children often, and 20, 30, 40 years after they've learned that chicken fingers and French fries are like the best things in the world, like they're still struggling with overcoming that belief that they learned when they were 5, or not exploring more vegetable options because when they were young they didn't eat them, and now they're just stuck in that thought like, well, I never ate that as a child, so why would I eat that now? Whereas giving kids the opportunity, especially with fruits and vegetables, because we know that fruit and vegetable consumption is linked to so many good health outcomes. And like in our home, I personally want my kids and myself to eat at least 9 servings of fruits and vegetables every day. So like that's the game plan. How are we going to do it? Like there are days when our breakfast has close to, that 9, the goal of 9 servings, whether it's a smoothie bowl or oatmeal that's packed full of fruits, or a tofu scramble with lots of vegetables. Like having that aim for getting in those fruits and vegetables is so, so, so important, and shown to be correlated to stronger bones, lower blood pressure, certainly a lower weight. And so even if that is the one thing that parents focus on, and I would say also educators and coaches and people who work with kids in any capacity, that highlighting, focusing on them eating these healthy foods and not rewarding them with things like pizza and chicken fingers and ice cream all the time is really important for them as children, but also so important for, what their attitude is towards food when they're adults.
Well, I know that you have something else prepared there. I'm really excited. I got to ask you about the chocolate muffins here that you guys have prepared, because, I think a lot of times when you're talking about people who aren't familiar with a plant-based diet, they think, oh man, we're going to be sacrificing all kinds of flavor. But my friend, you have indeed whipped up some chocolate muffins. Talk to us a little bit about them.
Yeah, so Carly loves to bake. And yesterday I gave her the recipe. This is one that we love. And she just, went in the kitchen and whipped them up. So they are made with mashed bananas and dates. There's 0 refined sugars in them. There's no oil either. She uses applesauce, a whole wheat flour and oat flour, and cocoa powder. And then of course, your baking powder, baking soda, a little vanilla extract. And you can incorporate, if you want to, some vegan chocolate chips. And they're amazing. Like, they taste so good. So let me unwrap one for you. But I mean, you bake these, you send them in your kid's lunch. Like, what kid isn't going to want to eat this? What adult isn't going to want to eat this? And it's a much healthier version, and comes with fiber and nutrients compared to the processed snack foods that are all over the grocery store aisles.
Hey, Carly, how hard was that to make? Was that pretty challenging for you, or was that easy breezy?
It was easy to make because all the ingredients, you didn't really have to do anything. You just had to mix them together and then put them in the tin and cook them.
That's awesome. I can tell you, my wife would just love to devour one of those things. She's a chocoholic, and I love finding, healthy ways to incorporate chocolate into her diet for her to make her smile. So this is fantastic, Carly. You have definitely done me a great service today.
Awesome. Can I share one more thing with you? 2 more things?
By all means, there's more. Do share.
Yeah. So one other thing, whether it's for a meal or a snack, that we go through in crazy amounts in our house are potatoes. So we just put some potatoes in the air fryer. Well, first, so I like to steam them. I learned that's the trick to having them come out really awesome in the air fryer, is to steam them first. And I'll do a bunch at a time and then just keep them in the refrigerator for whenever I'm ready to slice them up and crisp them in the air fryer. So we added some chili powder, a little bit of salt, pepper, garlic powder, and they come out nice and crispy, and they're amazing. And potatoes are like just so packed full of nutrients and really satiating. So as my friend Vicky says, don't make any important decision without first eating a potato. She's awesome. So the other thing we have is popcorn, as you can see. And all you have to do, you don't have to have an air popper to make popcorn without any oil. You can take popcorn kernels, put them in a brown paper lunch bag like this, and, fold it down, pop it in your microwave, and hit the popcorn button. So this took a little over a minute and a half, and popcorn, voila. So simple, something that children can do themselves. So I'm also big into I'm working from home right now, and, my kids are at the ages where they can feed themselves. So, I want them doing that and preparing meals and maybe helping me prepare them, getting dinner started as well. And let's see, do we have anything else? Well, again, some of the favorite things are fruit in our house. So I just restocked our clementine bowl this morning. You can't see all of them, but it will be gone by tomorrow. Carly and her sister will eat through those clementines in a day and a half. And to me, that's a huge win. As much fruit, even though it goes quickly in our house, those are exactly the kinds of foods that I want my kids reaching for.
Question from the exam roomies who are watching right now. How long do you steam the potatoes for?
Just until, so it depends on the size, and sweet potatoes take a little bit longer than the white potatoes, but just until they're fork tender. So I would say today I didn't have a timer going. They took probably about 15, 16 minutes. I know some people if you have an Instant Pot, I don't. I know, crazy, right? But there's a setting on the Instant Pot to steam potatoes also.
Outstanding. All right. Well, you guys are truly doing tremendous work, and I cannot thank you enough for joining us today. And Karen, I can't let you go also without asking you about the Health Challenge of Delaware that's going to be happening next month. Talk to us a little bit about that.
Yeah, so the primary care practice where I work, Progressive Health of Delaware, is sponsoring the 2nd annual Health Challenge Delaware. And of course, this year it's going to be virtual. So people who don't live in Delaware can attend if they want. And we're going to be meeting for the 4 Tuesdays in October in the evening. You can sign up at progressivehealthproject.com to learn more about eating a plant-based diet and be challenged to do that within the month of October to make some, significant dietary changes. And we'll have mentors who are going to help along the way and really provide some great support to people who want to adopt a healthier way of eating.
Outstanding. Healthy habits are established early in life. And Chloe, that is why I'm so thrilled for you and your sister, because you guys are so lucky to have the mom that you do. Let me tell you what. So thank you guys again for coming on today. And by the way, can we get the recipes that you shared today? Because I'm sure that a lot of people are going to be asking for those.
Yeah, sure thing. I'll send them over.
Outstanding. Okay. Now then, we will talk to you again very soon. Karen Smith, thank you so very much.
Hi, everybody.
Bye-bye. Time now to open up the doctor's mailbag and answer your health and nutrition questions. For that, we welcome Dr. Barnard back to the exam room live. And Dr. Barnard, today's question was really a big talker on yesterday's broadcast, and I wanted to revisit it. So many women are looking for help with this. And this particular question comes to us from Leslie, who wanted help with losing weight after menopause. She writes, I've been whole food plant-based for decades and have always been slim and fit, but suddenly I have an extra 10 pounds that won't budge, even though my diet is pristine and I'm very active. So what's going on here? Is this metabolism? What can you tell Leslie here?
I feel your pain, and you are not alone. Let's just maybe revisit the steps that you can take. Obviously, vegan is important, and you were apparently following a plant-based diet. That's great. But for the people who aren't and thinking, well, maybe I'll sort of get there, there's nothing like a completely plant-based diet to give you the most important foundation for keeping weight down. The second thing, and when I talk about limiting oils and oily foods, for a lot of folks, that really is their issue. They're imagining that everything they're eating is a whole food, plant-based thing. But if it's nuts and seeds and even extra virgin olive oil, it is so dense in calories that it's really hard for your body to burn that off. Foods that are as little processed as possible, that's important. But keeping the oil low really makes a huge difference. Don't forget what I mentioned earlier about thyroid. Your thyroid is here at the base of your neck, and I wrote all about this in my book, Your Body in Balance, but just to give you the 2-second version. If your thyroid is a little slow, you're not going to be burning calories normally. You can gain weight, not usually a huge amount of weight, but you'll notice it on the scale. And the biggest reason for this worldwide is a lack of iodine. And in the United States, most people don't think about that because iodized salt is so common. But we modern people might be using sea salt, Himalayan salt, kosher salt that could not be perhaps iodized. And so your thyroid gland is starving for iodine, doesn't make the thyroid hormone, you start gaining weight. Your doctor can easily check that with the TSH test that I mentioned earlier, thyroid stimulating hormone. If the TSH is a little bit out of bounds, the doctor's going to want to look at your iodine level, but don't wait for that. Make sure you got iodine in your diet right now. Iodized salt, good source. And by the way, you don't need a lot. You don't want to have a high salt intake, but use iodized salt when you're adding salt at the table, maybe 1/3 of a teaspoon a day, something like that, total. Seaweed. Seaweed is a good natural iodine source, which doesn't have a lot of salt in it naturally. So put those steps to work, and don't forget to lace up your sneakers.
All right. And you can pick up a copy of Your Body in Balance right now on Amazon. And Dr. Barnard, just a quick follow-up there. Somebody else yesterday wrote in and said that when they hit that plateau after menopause, they diversified their diet and started incorporating a wider variety of foods, and that seemed to help. Could that play a role as well?
Sure. Really for a couple of reasons. If what you were eating was too narrow and it was emphasizing foods that were too calorie dense, finding other foods can help enormously. You know, when I was a kid growing up in North Dakota, we ate, say, in the fruit group. We were not like Karen and Carly. For us, it was an apple. But once you discover there's apples and bananas and oranges and nectarines and berries and all that, huge candy store full of healthy foods that are high in fiber and very low in calories, then when you're going to reach for a snack, you're going to reach for something that won't be fattening.
All right, Dr. Barnard, appreciate that. If we didn't get to your question, don't fret. We will save it and try to get you an answer on an upcoming episode, just like we did for Leslie today. And one more thing, Dr. Barnard, we talked a lot about the Barnard Medical Center, and someone yesterday also sent in a question wondering about what sets the Barnard Medical Center apart from other facilities. And to me, the first thing that kind of popped into my mind was two words: preventative medicine. So really quickly, can you talk to us a little bit about what that means?
Sure. We established the Barnard Medical Center years ago with an idea that we would provide normal, good medical care plus a real nutrition emphasis. And this can mean preventive medicine, as you said, Chuck. So for people who are hopefully taking good care of themselves, they may never develop serious illnesses. But it goes beyond preventive medicine. Let's say you've got diabetes now, you got extra weight now, and your cholesterol is up, and you're just not feeling like yourself. We're going to help you medically, but we're also going to go through your diet, and we're going to see what we can do to help you. And if you've got a spouse who is thinking, or a partner or a friend who is thinking, maybe I could stand to do better too, we can talk to you both together. And we have 4 registered dietitians on staff who can coach you back to health. And I'm happy to say that the silver lining of the pandemic, if there is one, is that it has greatly accelerated the states that have now welcomed the Barnard Medical Center through telemedicine. The latest is Texas. So if you're in California or Texas or Florida or Pennsylvania or New York or here in Washington, D.C., Maryland, Virginia, there's a huge list of states. We can treat you through telemedicine. And if you like the doctor you've got, but you just want to see one of our nutritionists or see one of our doctors for just a 1-time or 2-time consultation, our doctors would be glad to see you for that too.
Yeah, telemedicine appointments available in now more than a quarter of the country. That is just fantastic. You see the full list of states right there. You can also find that by visiting barnardmedical.org to schedule your appointment, or you can pick up the phone. Call 202-527-7500 to make that appointment. And as Dr. Barnard said, right over your computer, you can do this thanks to the wonders of telemedicine. So don't wait. Take control of your health today. For that full list of states where appointments are available, you see it on the screen. Head over to barnardmedical.org or call 202-527-7500. Dr. Barnard, appreciate that, my friend. We will talk to you again very soon.
Thank you, Chuck.
All right. Now, coming up on the show tomorrow, a question for you. How does dairy damage your skin? Well, we are going to find out when we are joined live by Dr. Preeti Kulkarni, and you have no idea how excited my wife is about this one. So get ready to let your skin glow and soak up that nutrition knowledge with us right back here at noon Eastern on Facebook and on YouTube. But for today, that's going to wrap things up. My thanks again to Karen Smith and Chloe for their awesome ideas in the kitchen today. I think I'm going to go try some now. And to the crew that makes the magic happen behind the scenes, forever in your debt as well. And of course, to the exam roomies who tune in faithfully every single day to watch with us. Appreciate you guys. On behalf of Dr. Neal Barnard and everyone here at the Physicians Committee, I am the weight loss champion, Chuck Carroll. Thanks so very much for watching. And until tomorrow, stay safe, take a stand, and keep it plant-based.